Good day and welcome to HVAC 350. My name is Joe Pacella. This is assignment 7, and this is just the spreadsheet portion of it and trying to pull it together. One of the things I'd like you to notice is anything that's in white are areas that we have to fill in items. We're going to go through all of them right now. The only one that we're not going to go into details with is the mechanical permit fee, and we'll talk about that later on in this lecture and in another lecture. Now, if I'm from our last lecture, I left some numbers that I populated on some of these tables. So the first thing you're going to do is grab the on-center software. You're going to move all those items into there, into these separate tabs in here. Once you have that done, those numbers should come right back to this recap sheet where we can work with them. One of the with this here, Granite and Gables, location Dallas, Texas. This is going to be the city cost index from RS Means in the back of the book. I know that the materials pricing, I know from memory, is 99.9%. The labor pricing, I'm going to put a number in there. It's not going to be exact, but you're going to want something you're going to want to look at. So when I put in 99.9%, I had a total here of $892,238 on material cost, and it went to $891,346 in the city cost adjustment column. So if I were to make this 75%, Texas is a right-to-work state. The RS Means book is based on union scale, a lot different. When I go ahead and click on that, you'll see this number go from 259,526 here to another number, and that went to 194,644. So in other words, it took 25% off of that price that was there. Then there's overhead and profit. The difference between these two is overhead is a number. It's numbers we have to carry into our estimate, and the reason it's to cover the cost of doing business. First of all, this is called a cost up estimate. So what we're trying to do is figure out what our costs are on the job, and if we can identify those pretty well, when it comes to bid day, if we have to adjust our pricing or if we feel we need to adjust our pricing, if we know what our costs are, we can be more or less aggressive with some markup items. Like, for example, overhead pricing. That's pricing to have the boss drive around in a small SUV or a large SUV, depending on what level of boss he is. The office personnel from accounting to HR, it would be the person that does all the purchasing. It's going to be in the back of the shop, depending on how the company is set up. It could be used, any item that we need to have that business operate. That's kind of a hidden item is going to be our overhead. So if I'm going to put in a simple number to track overhead at 10% right now. And when I did that, you'll see over here for our overhead line item, it went from 891,346. It put 10% on materials and 10% on labor. And then I went ahead, and the difference between overhead and profit is the amount of money that once we theoretically overhead, we're just trying to cover our overhead pricing on the job, with our company in order to not go in the hole on projects. In other words, not to lose money on projects. The profit part is the part that we want to have for future investments in our company, whether we're going to go ahead and purchase different software packages such as Revit, or maybe buying the Carrier Load Calc software, or whatever they wanted to do. Putting in a better plasma machine, etc., going to Revit instead of AutoCAD, and having the interface go right from your Revit model and start making ductwork. Whatever it might be, that's what our profit's going to be. So after we put our overhead on, then we apply profit. So that's going to put $98,048 with our subtotal of our materials and labor there. There's a price in here to put a bid bond if we need to. If we had to carry $5,000 for the cost of a bid bond, we'll just put that number in there. We typically don't mark that up. I'm just going to say we're not going to have to do that for this project. So as we keep going, each one of these sheets that's here is going to populate back to here. It's going to give us materials and labors, and it's going to add up our labor hours total. Now, the reason I wanted to do it this way is we're going to go ahead and on page 88 of our RS Means book, although this is the plumbing section, it talks about different reasons why we have to do an adjustment to our labor. I've heard terms unapplied labor, unproductive labor. To me, it's labor that We went ahead, and if I put in 100 hours to work on a job, or in this case here, 4,690 hours to do this project, it would be great. It would be fantastic if we got 100% productivity out of our workforce. And there's lots of reasons it doesn't happen. It could be 4 or 5, it could be a bad crew. It could be that we have 3 or 4 or 5 trades working in the same area where it's very congested. It could be the day after St. Patrick's Day or the NCAA tournament. It could be a lot of reasons why people are not productive. But in the RS Means book, there's a couple of areas where it talks about unproductive labor. For this part here, I'm going to say that we're going to put in 8%. If I do that, you'll see that so far we had 4,690 hours. That went up 375 hours to 5,065 hours. I'm going to take that back to 0 real quick. And I'd like you to notice here, in the assignment, I believe it said for every 10,000 hours of subcontractor, we're going to put in 1 hour of labor. And for every 80 hours of our labor, we're going to put 1 hour of labor in. Of project management. That would be the guy on the job site. It would be the person, there's, in mechanical contracting, there will be like an assistant project engineer. Then there'll be could be assistant project manager, and then a project manager. On a job this size here, you'd have a project manager and at least 2 project engineers probably on this project. Not on this one here, but by the time you get everything else in here. It's a relatively quick job that went in. A lot of coordination had to happen. So I'm going to put this back to 8%, and you'll see how this went from 59 to 63 hours here. As I keep coming across here, mechanical permit fee, that'll be on a separate lecture I'm going to record for you for this project. And so that's going to be a fixed price. I'm going to put in $15,000 to put a number in. And that's going to mark up and change these numbers a little bit. Then we get down to this area here. This is the garage area, although it's spelled incorrectly. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. But on the garage area here, from our information, I had $165,655. And I would like to go back to that. There is a markup scale here. So anything 70,000 and above is 2%, 30 to 70 is 4%, 8%, 10%. I made up these numbers with this. These numbers can be, they can go all over the map. I know that the larger our subs that we have on a project, the less markup typically they're going to allow us to make. And when you're talking about subbing out, $1 million in plumbing or $2 million in this or that, you're going to be down less than 1% when you're typically doing those. But I made this pretty simple for our purposes of our estimate here. So because we're at 165,000, we're going to put in 2% there. When I put that in, you'll notice this total is going to change to 168,968. You'll see that that went across here, and we had this much markup there. And what this is supposed to give us here when we're all said and done is it's going to give us our total of the project, and it's going to go ahead and give us our total markup. Our total markup should be this item here plus these 2 items here. So that is what I wanted to cover on this lecture. I will be doing 1 or 2 more lectures for this. They'll be relatively short also. Thank you, and have a good day.